We're going to continue with our media availabilities for today. We are now joined by our pole winner for tomorrow's race, Christopher Bell. Christopher, thanks for joining us. You're great here, racing. First pole. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, I was very surprised how hard the cars were to drive in practice and even qualifying too. You know, everyone was slipping and sliding around, and I think it's going to be a different race than what we saw last year with the downforce change and the tire change.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If you have one, please raise your hand and we'll get a mic over. We'll start right here in the middle.
Okay. Steven Sump, Frenchers.com. I mean, your record in New Hampshire NASCAR needs no introduction. All but one finish was one or two, first or second. Now you're on the pole. What do you enjoy about this place? And
Yeah, I do enjoy it. It's a place where your driver technique and your feet and your hands dictate a lot of what the car does. So, you know, if you're a little bit loose, you can kind of change your line around. There's a bunch of banking transition and seams and you know, at one point they put PJ1 down that would manipulate your car, and now they don't put the grip down, but there's still a little bit left. So, you know, it's just a place where you can really change how the car is driving. You're not stuck to one driving style, one line, and it's a place that you know, you can generally find your way moving forward as long as your car is in the ballpark.
thank you.
Go over here to the right.
Hi, Christopher. At this track, there's been so many guys coming in here talking about how they just can't get a hold of it today. With the success you've already had and coming out here on the pole, can you just run away and hide? Like, how important is it to be that far ahead of everybody else already?
Yeah, I hope I can, but I don't think that's, you know, realistic. There's a lot of great cars, great drivers, you know, right behind us, and qualifying today was certainly a matter of not screwing up. You know, it was a very different qualifying session because most of the time you're able to maximize your car, where today it was a matter of not taking yourself out of it. It was so easy to make a big mistake and lose a bunch of lap time. So, you know, we saw Ty Gibbs have an issue, and then Joey Logano had an issue in the second round. So I think that once we get in the race, we're going to have a lot of comers and goers.
Any other questions for Christopher? Come up here to Rich, and we'll go to Nathan.
Christopher, you always hear about track position being the key to victory here. Just, you know, talk about racing from the pole.
Yeah, I honestly believe that track position is probably going to be the least important it's ever been at this racetrack, or at least compared to what it was last year. You know, the amount of sliding around that we did today, the lack of grip. I think that the cream is going to rise to the top. The good drivers, the good cars are going to be able to pass and get their way to the front. So, you know, I start at the front. Hopefully we can stay up there, but this is a place where people will you know, try some different strategies by staying out or taking two tires or short pitting, long pitting, whatever the case may be, where, you know, you're not guaranteed to start up front and just stay up there all day. So, you know, hopefully with the conditions being hot and slick and slippery, we're able to pass a little bit easier whenever you do get back in traffic.
We'll go to Nathan, and then we'll go over here and back.
Nathan Son with a podium finish. Christopher, you did the tire test here in the spring. Just kind of how did that new tire feel today, and what's the difference, or have you felt any difference from last year's race to this year's race?
Yeah, a huge difference from last year's race to this year's race, and a huge difference from whenever it was middle of April to now. You know, I was shocked whenever I got out there, and just the lack of grip that we had compared to at the test, and the only thing that's different is the ambient conditions. So, you know, I think that the tire is going to be a step in the right direction. It's hard to pinpoint what the difference is in the tires, because whenever we were here 12 months ago, you know, we had a spoiler that was, 4 times the size that we have now. So, you know, I think that with the tire trying to aim to have more fall off and slicker over the course of a long run, and a little itty-bitty spoiler in the back, you're going to see a lot of sliding around, and that's what the drivers want.
And then last year you had to win your way into the playoffs by winning this race. Obviously, you've had that win now for quite some time. So what's your approach and mindset at this point now compared to where it was last year? Yeah,
we're in a really, really important battle for the regular season championship. And, you know, there's a lot of guys that are in the hunt. And I have, you know, one of the best race cars that I've had all year this weekend. So we need to capitalize on that. We as in the 20 group needs to capitalize on that and score as many points as we can. This is a pivotal race in the race for the regular season championship.
We'll go in the back left.
Bob Bartis, WSMN. Christopher, you were here about a month ago. You got some tire testing in. Did that time help you today with relearning your visual cues and getting a feel for the asphalt after it survived the New Hampshire winter?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a disadvantage, but I will say that the car drives substantially different today than it did, whenever that was in April. And the first thing that I say whenever I went out there, obviously we came back with the best setup that we thought from the test, and it drove pretty bad. So, I'm telling Adam that, what'd you do to this thing? This thing's horrible. And he's telling me it's the same setup that I had 2 months ago, whatever it was. So, I think that the tire test or testing in general can have that, where you dial yourself out because the conditions aren't the same. But, we're fast and it's hard to drive. So I'm sure that the guys that are slower than me are saying it's really hard to drive too.
Any final questions? We'll wrap in the back with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Christopher, what is, if there is a difference, what is the difference from last year when you're trying to secure a playoff spot to now you're trying to race for a regular season championship because of all the playoff points that are at stake? What are the similarities, are there any similarities, or is it completely different from your mindset?
Yeah, it is very similar. I would say that it's almost identical, other than the people that you're watching, on a regular basis are different. So, whenever I was on that playoff bubble, you're paying attention to the guys around the playoff bubble, and really anyone behind it who might be in contention to win. I remember going back to Sonoma last year. I had a terrible race, and we were right around that playoff bubble line, and then the entire top 3 or top 5 was behind me in points, and they were, so someone who won the race was going to jump me and bump me out of it. And so I'm sure that everyone that's in that bubble spot now is doing the same thing. But, here we are a year later, and you're focusing on those 3 or 4 cars that are racing for the points, and, one mistake or bad stage, and you can lose a lot of points very quickly. So, Williams got a little bit of a gap on us, but all it takes is one bad race, and he's right back there with us. So, we got a lot of cars that we're trying to keep up with and outrun, and it's I would imagine it's fun to stay on top of.
Holly, go ahead. We'll wrap with you. Sorry, I didn't see you over there.
Sorry, I'll go real fast. It's kind of along those lines. The fact that nobody has just run off with the championship this year. I mean, is there that sense from you guys that, this is still a wide open deal?
Yeah, it's really crazy. My finishes have been atrocious lately, and I'm still right in the hunt. So that's a good thing for me, and hopefully if we can start cleaning up our finishes, then I'll be able to capitalize on that. But it is crazy. It seems like people just keep having mistakes and bad days that bring them back to where we are. And you look at the 8-car Kyle Busch, he's right there in the hunt, and he was buried into the tire barriers at Chicago lap 3, and he made it out of it. So all the teams in the top 5 are doing a really good job of maximizing the day, even whenever they have adverse conditions, and we're seeing a great points race out of it. So the 20 group, we need to start finishing races. We've been running really well and finishing really poorly. So I think the capability of our team is strong and high, and we haven't been able to maximize that yet.
Thanks for your time, Christopher. Good luck tomorrow.